All right, today we're going to show you how easy it is to create a virtual food drive fundraiser on the Big River platform. A virtual food drive is a type of campaign where your constituents are creating their own fundraisers as if they were collecting food for you. Of course, in this case, they're collecting money online within your brand, on your platform, and within the scope potentially of a branded campaign or an annual campaign or something seasonal. You can have as many different virtual food drives as you want on the Big River platform, which could be used to do different seasonal campaigns, your annual campaign, or something related to specific life events or types of fundraisers. So, for example, Christmas time, prompting your constituents to have virtual food drives as part of their holiday parties. A virtual food drive is one of the Big River campaign templates, and a template in Big River is a container of all the things that you need to have a specific successful type of fundraiser, in this case a virtual food drive. So that includes the default content both for the campaign forms itself, for the communications related to them, and in this case, for the content and communications that will enable your constituents to become more successful fundraisers. Our constituents in the world today are great supporters of our organizations, but they're not trained fundraisers, and the Big River campaign templates include best practices from successful fundraisers that we put in their hands to make them more effective at fundraising without having to become professional fundraisers. So from the gallery of campaign templates, we're going to create a new virtual food drive to get started. And I'm logged in and my account is set up. We're assuming that you've created an account on Big River and that you have set up your payment processing. All right, so we're going to just change the name. And then we've got some default content here you see for the main form. And for most templates, this is going to be instructional content for you. I'm going to take this out, and I've canned the content that we want in here, just in Microsoft Word, so you don't have to watch me type during this presentation. And this, all the editors in Big River have standard web editing capabilities, formatting, fonts, styles, as well as plugins for different particular types of content that are relevant to making effective fundraisers. So in this case, we're going to drop in a YouTube video, and I've stashed the URL for that by clicking on the YouTube icon there. Paste in that URL, and you'll see that the system is going to give us a thumbnail or a placeholder for that video. A couple of things. The campaign template comes with predefined settings for things like handling transaction fees. So in most cases, you want to prompt your constituents or your donors to cover your transaction fees. Studies that we've conducted show 80% of donors will do that. It's a great way to recapture the cost of operating your fundraiser. You can or do not need to have a goal. In this case, for this campaign, we're going to have a goal. If it were an annual fund, you might not have one. All that does is control whether a sliding dialogue, a progress bar, will show up on the campaign. By default, we want to prompt people to give $55. We'll show why in a minute. We've got a default fundraiser goal, so when someone creates a new fundraiser, we're prompting them to try and raise $250. Of course, they can change that. And if this were a campaign with a season or related to one of your branded campaigns, you might set an end date for it. In this case, we're not going to. And I've got the ability to change an image, but we're just going to use the default there. That's enough for me to get started and get my main page visualizable. And if I hit the preview button, we'll see what it looks like. And all that content is showing up as we'd expect it to on a campaign, in the layout of the campaign. You can see we've got our progress bar that I mentioned before, that default donation when someone clicks the donate button, and then the content describing the campaign. Notice that we also include sharing icons by default for the big three, Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. Those are controllable with advanced settings. But now let's configure that fundraiser even more. So we set a default level there of $55. The reason for that is we're going to tell a little story about what $55 does for the context of this campaign. When you create the campaign from a template, default giving levels or items, depending on the type of campaign, will be created for you. And we can edit those, but in this case, we're just going to take a couple of them out and they can be restored if we do this accidentally. But I'm going to add and we can add an image for the form, but in this case I'm not going to, and set that donation level to $55. So our form, our campaign, preview that again. We haven't seen any change here, but if I go to my donate page that's attached to the form, we can see that we've got that item in there, and of course someone can give the amount that they want if they want to have a different level. There's the prompt that we mentioned before, so that if they click there, they'll pay the transaction fees. Below that, since we're on the donation form, we've got all the information laid out to capture their contact information, which you can download from the system, for them to pay their credit card, their pledge via credit card. There are other payment options, but this is the by default. And then to leave a message for the administrator, which can also be shared on the campaign page. Later we'll do a test transaction. Now, since we have, since this is a type of campaign where constituents are creating fundraisers, we're going to use impact stories to make them more effective. What an impact story does is it creates, it gives a constituent a starting point from which to tell the organization's story and raise money on behalf of the organization. Our constituents aren't successful fundraisers. They're not experienced fundraisers by nature. At least many of them won't be. And so we want to give them some starting content, and especially get them to tell the organization's story in the organization's own words. So a few of these are populated by default by the campaign template, and these will be different depending on the type of campaign that you create in Big River. But I'm going to take out, actually I'll leave all these in here. You'll notice they cover stories that relate to the organization's mission, feeding seniors, backpack programs for kids, Meals on Wheels, that sort of thing. We're going to add a new one related to a cafe program that our food bank operates, specifically for children. And I've got that story also copied in Excel, in Microsoft Word. I'm just going to copy that. And what this enables a constituent to do is when they get started and they don't know exactly what story they want to tell, they can pick one that already is relevant to the organization's mission, and we'll see how that works later. A couple other things. In addition, communications, all the automatic communications, all the communications that you would use to solicit leaders for your virtual food drive, and all the communications that those leaders would use to solicit, thank, and remind donors are pre-populated in the template. These can be edited by the organization, by you, to change, for example, the confirmation page, the receipt that they see after making a donor sees after making a transaction, or how the content you'll use to invite leaders for your campaign, and you'll see we've populated that with content related to virtual food drives. And then most importantly, you can put, again, your words in your constituents' mouth as they run their own campaigns, invite donors, thank donors, and solicit on your behalf. You can change all this content, put your logo on it, embed video again like we saw before, anything you want to do to really get your donors telling your story to be more effective at fundraising on your behalf. So we've done enough here right now to publish this. And we've made the campaign public, and now we're switching to a dashboard view that we use during the campaign to monitor progress, to invite leaders and donors, to coach them along, to remind them to remind our leaders to thank donors. And you can see we have everything here. Again, we can go back and edit our page. We can change those communications, those default emails again. We can track donations as they come in, and there's some high-level statistics that we show associated with those. And then we can manage the individual constituents who are leading virtual food drives. There's also content here to share the campaign and for the constituent leaders to share their fundraisers as they initiate them. We'll get to that in a minute. And then reporting, so you can pull down data relevant to the campaign at any time. What I'm going to do now is a couple things. I'm going to just view that public page again. And I'm going to log out, and we're going to play this now from the standpoint of one of our constituents. So when someone is not logged in, when a campaign administrator is not logged in, this is the view that they would see of that campaign now. And from a donor's point of view, they can go and make a donation. But from one of our potential leaders, they can start a virtual food drive from this page. And so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm interested in starting a virtual food drive related to an upcoming birthday I've got going. And I'm going to create a new account. If your constituents have used the Big River platform for your organization to run campaigns in the past, either as a team member for a team-based campaign or as a leader for a fundraiser like this, they can log in and reuse their account. But in this case, I'm showing you starting from scratch. I'm going to agree to terms. I can upload a picture that would be used in communication, but I'll just register. I get a note saying that an email is on its way with my credentials and unlocking this account for me. And then when I go to my inbox, there it is, a little bit of communication. And this is an example of one of those emails that you can configure within the campaign to give your individual fundraiser more information, a little more coaching to begin their campaign. We kept it pretty simple for this example. But the big thing here is the link that we're going to use to activate the account. And now I am able to log in using that password that I set before. And I can now start my own virtual food drive on the organization's behalf. So going to do this in honor of my birthday. And notice we've got those stories that I told you before. So from a constituent's point of view, they don't necessarily know how to fundraise on the organization's behalf. And from the organization's point of view, of course, it's very important that all our constituents are out there with the organization's mission, their messaging, so that everyone's on the same page. So I'm going to just select that story related to the Kids Cafe. And that I'm going to change my goal, be ambitious and go for $1,000. And I'm going to use a date, target date, and we'll, assuming that it would be my birthday, but it is not. Just select a few months out. There we go. And I could add an image, but in this case I'm not going to. So I've saved my virtual food drive, and I can preview what it's going to look like. We've got a goal, we've got some progress, nothing yet. The story is up there on behalf of the organization, looking good. And so now I'm going to publish this. And as a team leader, I've got my own dashboard that I can go to. And this shows me how I'm doing on my individual food drive. Just like for the entire campaign, I can edit the content of the form again. I can see who my donors are, thank them, or invite them to begin with, and then share and promote my page via email or social media links. And that's what I'm going to do through an outbound email. So let's do this. I'm going to click on the email. And for team leaders, as well as for campaigns, we keep address lists, outbound email lists. For the team leaders, these will be their own contacts, their personal friends, family, perhaps business contacts. Those are kept separate from the organization's lists until sometime as one of these people makes a donation. In this way, we assure, from the organization's point of view, we assure our constituents that we're not going to use your individuals, your friends, your family, for outright solicitation until they become themselves a constituent of the organization. It's very important from a privacy point of view and giving people confidence to fundraise on the organization's behalf that they're a trusted virtual member of the organization. In this case, I'm just going to input a version of my email. add that to the address book. I can upload a file, a CSV file of emails. Select this particular contact, and notice that the solicitation from me to my contacts has already been pre-populated. And again, this is from the organization's point of view, helping me make sure that the organization's message is what we use to appeal for this campaign. Notice we've got merge tags in here. I didn't call those out before, but the fixed merge tag is very important, as that populates the buttons in the email that bring the donor or the potential leader back to the Big River platform to log in or make a donation. If you accidentally cut that out, we'll make sure one goes in for you. And notice from the team leader's point of view, we've got a simpler editor here that restricts the amount of formatting that we make available to them so that we're not overburdening them or confusing them or giving them too many options. We want them getting a message out, not crafting an overly beautiful email. So I'm going to send that email out, and that's been set to my inbox yet. And we'll just wait for that to come in. While we're here, you'll notice that we've got the same kind of progress. I can invite donors from my main dashboard, similar to what I just did. I can re-solicit people that I've invited in the past who haven't given yet, and Big River keeps the difference between those who have donated and those who have just been solicited, so you're not reminding people who have already given. And then, of course, we want our constituents to thank their donors personally, and we put, again, the language for that thanks in pre-populated email templates. We've also got a few tips and tricks for success on here, whether to share or when to share, how often, and those can change over time. So I've now got a solicitation from me to me in this case, but notice that we use my name as the from address, and it's got that content that the organization helped define for us, and two big buttons. I can either donate now or take a look at that page. Notice that we've also got an unsubscribe link in there that's automatically populated so that if constituents are fundraising on your behalf, if their contacts opt out, the organization will get that opt-out information. All right, we've got our donation form now. It tells me which virtual food drive I am giving to. I can change that if I got that wrong. Notice we've got that default setting of $55 there, and I'm going to populate this with my information. Oops. If you're not familiar with the use of the plus sign in email addresses, many platforms like Google or Yahoo allow you to add anything after the core part, the first part of your email address, with a plus sign, allowing you to have different virtual email accounts without having different accounts open. And we use that to make it a little clear, the differentiation in this example between the campaign leader and the team leader and the donor. And I've already got my address saved in Google. And I had left out the rest of the credit card information. Now, since we're doing an example here, of course, we're connected to a credit card processing option that does not actually process credit cards, and so I can put that dummy credit card number in there. I'm going to make my donation, and I'll see my receipt page. Again, this could have been customized by the organization. I can go to the team's page now. Actually, this is the team campaign page now. We've got $55 progress on the way to the organization's goal of $100,000. And now notice we've got our virtual food drives lined up here. So the very first of those virtual food drives appears on the overall campaign page, and as your individual constituents sign up, they will each have their individual card representing their food drive up here. And now if I log in on the organization's behalf again, sign out and sign back in, so it's now logged in as the campaign manager. I see that goal progress. I see, some real quick statistics. I've had one donor. So far, my response rate is really good. I can send out thank you emails to all the donors from here, and notice that we've got some of that predefined content that the organization can set themselves. And I can also from here control or prompt or coach the leaders of those virtual food drives. So I can send update emails to those drive leaders, right? And notice that we've got the progress automatically merged into that email. But I can use this as a way of coaching people, keeping people engaged as the campaign goes on, so that they are engaged with their own, with the constituents that they're soliciting and the donors that they're thanking. Got a little tab here that shows the progress, now summary of all the different food drives. Again, we only have one so far, and the ability here from the campaign level to do that same sharing that I did from the team level earlier. For reports during the campaign, at the end of the campaign, we can download details on donors, data for financial reconciliation with our finance department, and other detailed information on our campaign. So that's a quick overview of how the Big River platform can be applied to a specific type of fundraiser, virtual food drive. There are many different templates available on the platform, and more being created all the time. Stay tuned, subscribe to this YouTube channel for additional demonstrations, additional views of new templates from Big River, and thank you for watching today's presentation.